Welcome to the Stoic Lifestyle channel. In today's video, we continue our self-development series from earlier episodes. If you're new here or missed the last one, you may watch all of the episodes in the playlist that appears at the end of this video. These lessons are more than just instructional information. They are a daily, comprehensive approach to living. Be sure to subscribe if you like it to avoid missing future episodes. This series expresses love through likes. Keep it up in the comments below the video. We're not talking about some dusty old philosophy. We're going to look at how Stoicism may help you navigate the obstacles of current life. We'll look at how to rethink your relationship with money, find greater significance in your everyday routine, and train your mind to focus. In this video, the Stoics caution us against interacting with certain individuals as they have the potential to severely harm our lives and bring us down. Today we shall identify 15 different categories of people. Stoicism warns us about this. Also, if you find somebody in your life currently exhibiting these habits, remove them from your life immediately before we begin this video. As Seneca phrased it, luck occurs when preparation meets opportunity. So, if you're ready to clear your mind, simplify your life, and unleash the power of Stoic wisdom, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's go on this adventure together. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have control over your thinking. Outside events will not notice this, and you will gain strength. Thank you for watching. Number 1. The flatterer. Is the flatterer one of the toxic people that Stoics warn us about? This is someone who lavishes us with undeserved praise, not because they genuinely admire us, but because they want something from us. They have an ulterior aim of obtaining our favor through excessive flattery. The Stoics teach us to be aware of flatterers and recognize their attempts to control us through false praise. A genuine compliment is one thing, but when someone heaps on the accolades to an unreasonable extent, they most certainly have a motive. The flatterer may be attempting to get on our beneficial side in order to request a favor, obtain power or influence with our approval, or simply soothe their own ego by garnering our adoration, whatever the flatterer's goal. Their lavish praise is really a means to their own goal, not a true reflection of our achievements. The Stoics caution us against succumbing to these tactics. We should analyze the intentions behind any excessive flattery and be wary of placing too much trust in the flatterer's remarks or giving them what they seek, fake praise. It does us no good. The wise course of action is to see through the flattery and identify the flatterer. True intentions. Number 2. The greedy. The Stoics warn us about greed, another harmful personality characteristic. These are people driven by material aspirations and the pursuit of gain, with insatiable avarice clouding their judgment and character for the greedy accumulation of money, things, and prestige. Symbols are the primary motivators in life. They are continuously craving more, never feeling satisfied, even if they are already wealthy. Their greed has no bounds. They will plan, exploit, and step on others in order to increase their fortune and goods. The greedy marine creatures play a zero-sum game in which more for them equals less for everyone else. They refuse to share because they want everything for themselves. Their greed also makes them extremely insecure. No amount of wealth can ever satisfy them. Stoics recognize that a scarcity worldview is the foundation of greed. The hungry are never satisfied because they always believe they are lacking something. This undermines their peace of mind and honesty. The Stoics admonish us not to become consumed by greed. Being content with what you have and focusing on things of actual value, such as character, wisdom, and peace, allows you to be quite free. The greedy have warped priorities, valuing money and stuff before virtue and tranquility. Insatiable desires impair their judgment. Stoics urge us not to imitate the greedy or envy their fortune. More does not imply better. Fulfillment comes from within, not external gains. Number 3. The envious. The envious are another type of toxic person whom the Stoics warn us to avoid and not follow. These are people who despise the talents, successes, or riches of others. They are constantly jealous of what others have. The envious believe that another person's beneficial fortune is at their expense. They operate from a scarcity perspective, believing that life is a zero-sum game. So when someone else obtains something, they believe it means less to them. This fosters anger, insecurity, and hatred among the envious. They act on these impulses by attempting to undermine those they envy. An envious individual would attempt to disparage others. Talents dismiss their achievements as chance or privilege, spreading negative rumors. Their goal is to reduce their perceived superiors. Envy can also lead to acts of cruelty. They can't tolerate seeing someone else succeed. Therefore, they strive to sabotage it, rather than being inspired by others' achievements. The envious individual's jealousy causes them to make nasty remarks, give backhanded compliments, and privately rejoice when the envied person suffers misfortune. The Stoics view jealousy as an involuntary moral weakness stemming from a lack of wisdom, yet they emphasize that we possess the freedom to choose whether or not to act out of envy. The appropriate path is to have a positive attitude toward people and appreciate their accomplishments rather than dislike them. Others' accomplishments should inspire us to nurture our own qualities instead of succumbing to envy. Number 4. The angry. Another problematic personality type is the habitually furious individual, also known as the Stoic. These people are prone to fits of fury, resentment, and a thirst for vengeance. Their rage trumps their logic and judgment. Tiny provocations, real or imagined, readily trigger the angry person. They tend to see others, their actions, and their words in the worst possible light and are quick to take offense. They hold grudges for long periods of time, refusing to forgive or let go. The Stoics understood rage as the result of unmet ambitions and a sense of helplessness. The furious individual believes they are not receiving what they deserve from the world. This leads to resentment and a desire for retaliation, which they use as a means of asserting control when they are angry. An angry individual is unable to think clearly or act constructively. They are more inclined to react aggressively and act rashly out of bitterness, exacerbating the issue rather than improving it. The Stoics warn us not to emulate those who are angry. Although unintentional anger may arise, we decide whether to take action. Provocation prompts us to pause for perspective, as becoming enraged simply poisons our lives. It is preferable to respond rationally and with self-control rather than with petty grudges and resentments. As Epictetus observed, any individual capable of enraging you becomes your master. Number 5. The complainer. The chronic complainer is another annoying personality type. The Stoics caution us not to emulate. Complainers are always negative, criticizing, and grumbling about their situation. They spread gloom instead of light. The complaint criticizes practically everything, including the weather, the government, their employment, and their relationships, where minor flaws loom as large as major ones. The complainant has the mindset that nothing is ever good enough. Rather than taking constructive action, the complainer simply whines. They play the victim, acting impotent when they could make better efforts, and the complainer seeks sympathy from others and broadcasts their concerns publicly in order to gain attention. This fosters negativity, which drags down others around them, and complainers are unaware that venting only reinforces their misery. It becomes a toxic mindset, as Epictetus said. If you want to progress, be okay with appearing uninformed or stupid in trivial areas. The Stoics urge us not to emulate complainers, even if we meet obstacles. We only make matters worse for ourselves by lamenting excessively. It is far better to focus on making the most of what we can manage and taking constructive action rather than wallowing in negativity. Hardships are unavoidable, but we may choose whether to face them with wisdom and perseverance or with feudal whining. Number 6. The self-pitying. The Stoics warn us against imitating the self-pitying character, which is another tiresome personality type. These folks indulge in their own unhappiness and present themselves as victims at every opportunity. The self-pitying person accepts no responsibility for their situation. They blame their problems on others, fate, the universe, or anything other than themselves. Their attitude is awful. Poor me. I deserve better than this cruel world. This promotes a sense of powerlessness and bitterness. The self-pitying person expects others to comfort them and make things right. They broadcast stories of misery to evoke sympathy and reassurance. If they are not to blame, then why does the self-pitying individual persist in claiming to be a victim? They avoid accountability, and the impulse to take action to enhance their self-absorption overpowers sympathy for what others may be going through. Stoics advise us against adopting a self-pitying worldview. They recommend taking a balanced view of life's ups and downs rather than wallowing in hardship. Instead of portraying ourselves as victims, we should focus on what we can control and build resilience. Challenges are unavoidable, but we choose whether to face them with maturity or dramatization. As Marcus Aurelius advised, begin each day by telling yourself, "Today, I will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all because of the offender's ignorance of what is good and evil." Number 7. The arrogant. Stoicism warns against hubris, another poisonous personality trait. The arrogant have an inflated feeling of self-importance and superiority over others. Their extreme pride blinds them to their shortcomings and true standing. The arrogant individual assumes they are always right, the finest at what they do, and deserve special consideration. They believe in their superior abilities, intelligence, status, and entitlements. This causes them to speak down to others and regard advice or criticism as beneath them. An arrogant mindset generates intolerance, disdain, and antagonism against others considered inferior. The arrogant person cannot admit their mistakes or limitations because it would shatter their grandiose self-image. Their pride prevents them from being humble or reflecting on themselves. This renders the arrogant unteachable, since they reject constructive criticism that would help them improve or demonstrate consideration. They also struggle to create meaningful relationships because relating as equals does not satisfy their desire for dominance and respect. Stoics warn against the foolishness of conceit, instead promoting humility and acknowledging our human fallibility. Pride should stem from living virtuously, not inflating our own importance. Marcus Aurelius said, "You can't judge others for anything. Their natures are responsible. Their dispositions have evolved as a result of character and necessity." Number 8. The selfish. Stoicism warns against hubris, another poisonous personality trait. The arrogant have an inflated feeling of self-importance and superiority over others. Their extreme pride blinds them to their shortcomings and true standing. The arrogant individual assumes they are always right, the finest at what they do, and deserve special consideration. They believe in their superior abilities. Their superior intelligence, status, and entitlements lead them to denigrate others, viewing advice or criticism as beneath them. An arrogant mindset generates intolerance, disdain, and antagonism against others considered inferior. The arrogant person cannot admit their mistakes or limitations because it would shatter their grandiose self-image. Their pride prevents them from being humble or reflecting on themselves. This renders the arrogant unteachable, since they reject constructive criticism that would help them improve or demonstrate consideration. They also struggle to create meaningful relationships because relating as equals does not satisfy their desire for dominance and respect. Stoics warn against the foolishness of conceit, instead promoting humility and acknowledging our human fallibility. Pride should stem from living virtuously, not inflating our own importance. Marcus Aurelius said, "You can't judge others for anything. Their natures are responsible. Their dispositions have evolved as a result of character and necessity." Number 9. The stubborn. The obstinate person is another problematic personality type described in Stoic philosophy. These individuals hold firm to their beliefs and refuse to listen to arguments or compromise. Their inflexibility makes them difficult to work with. The stubborn person insists on having things their way, regardless of the consequences, and is unable or unwilling to accept alternate perspectives, suggestions, or possibilities. Even clear proof to the contrary will not persuade their entrenched stance. This promotes resistance to change and progress. The stubborn person would prefer to continue in full deception rather than change direction and recognize their mistake. Taking a more deliberate approach would necessitate opening their minds rather than sticking stubbornly to assumptions. Their rigid fixity also prevents the obstinate person from accommodating others' requirements in relationships and partnerships, resulting in a power struggle rather than a mutual exchange, their way or the highway. This tends to alienate individuals. Stoicism teaches the dangers of stubborn rigidity. While principles are crucial, the wise retain the flexibility to apply them with reason and care. We injure ourselves when we refuse to adjust to changing circumstances or listen to the knowledge of others. Our objectives should be truth and improvement, not clinging tenaciously to weak egos. Number 10. The insensitive. These folks lack empathy and don't care how their words and actions affect others. Insensitive people do not recognize social cues or appreciate the perspectives of others. They are tone-deaf to what may hurt, insult, or disturb others, and they proceed recklessly with their objective. This insensitivity, without concern for the consequences, creates hurt and resentment. The insensitive person leaves a trail of hurt feelings, rage, and others feeling undervalued. Yet the insensitive persists, unaware or apathetic to the harm done. They do not consider how to conduct themselves with more tact and care. Their harshness and lack of empathy tend to alienate individuals through mean-spirited, hilarious, frank criticism and callous disrespect, undermining moral will and trust. The insensitive person's connections remain superficial because no one feels comfortable being vulnerable around them. Stoicism calls for increased empathy, compassion, and care in our behavior. While we have little influence over how others see us, we should strive to communicate with kindness and consideration. Thoughtlessness breeds disagreement and isolation. As Marcus Aurelius observed, thoughtfulness leads to understanding and fellowship. A wrongdoer is frequently unaware that he is doing wrong. Number 11. The cynical. The cynic is another type of harmful personality described in Stoic philosophy. Cynical people criticize honesty, idealism, and goodwill as naive or silly. Their reflexive cynicism stifles hope and undermines the community. The cynic assumes people's worst intentions for anything positive. They disapprove of virtues such as honesty, compassion, and altruism. It is believed that no one genuinely endorses these principles. The cynic's default is scorn and disdain. If they dismiss virtue as genuine, this cynical attitude originates from disillusionment and preserves their ego. The cynic avoids feeling foolish for believing in virtue and is disappointed when it fails. However, their cynicism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, alienating people and devaluing what they disbelieve. The cynic's caustic words and hair spark skepticism and tend to alienate people. Their sarcastic humor and inability to believe the best destroy human bonds. Beneath their guarded derision comes anguish about the good they feel they have been cheated of through Stoicism. It teaches that while evil exists, we must maintain trust in our collective potential for virtue and goodwill. Cynicism is destructive, sapping our ability to change society. Even when disappointed, we must remain open to sincerity and collaborate to promote justice and compassion in the world. As Marcus Aurelius once said, when you wake up in the morning, convince yourself that the individuals you will encounter today will be interfering, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and unpleasant. Number 12. The manipulative. Another destructive personality type addressed in Stoic teachings is the manipulator, who exploits and deceives others for selfish benefit. Their deceit renders them untrustworthy. The manipulative individual views encounters as chess games in which they maneuver for personal profit. They deliberated on how to pit people against one another. They manipulate circumstances to gain control by forming false alliances and forcing outcomes to their advantage. This harsh calculus renders the manipulator cunning but untrustworthy. They maintain a veneer of kindness and sincerity, but it conceals their self-serving goal. The manipulator forms superficial ties with individuals and then drops them when they are no longer useful. Their motivations always trump connection. This exploitative approach to relationships always backfires. The manipulator may gain some short-term success through devious plans, but their deception and betrayal of trust catch up with them. People begin to recognize the manipulators, challenge their deceptive tactics, and reject further exploitation. Stoics know that deception and exploitation eventually fail and isolate the culprit, while treating people with sincerity and respect and viewing them as fellow humans deserving of dignity. Not using pawns is the only ethical and prudent option. Manipulation can never result in sincere. Number 13. The reckless. The reckless individual is another troublesome personality type mentioned in Stoic teachings. Reckless individuals take unwarranted risks without considering the consequences of their actions. Their negligence endangers both them and others. The irresponsible person enjoys courting danger and pushing boundaries with little thinking. They receive a rush from taking dumb risks, ignoring warning signs, and participating in dangerous behavior without precautions. They appear to feel the rules do not fully apply to them. This irresponsibility leads to calamity down the line. A careless person leaves behind the aftermath of a crisis that they could have avoided with caution and self-control. Their lack of discipline has an impact not just on themselves, but on everyone who is affected by their poor decisions, even when their irresponsibility causes harm. The irresponsible individual fails to learn. They rationalize their failures, avoid accountability, and continue to indulge their impulses. Stoicism emphasizes a rational life, whereas they fail to gain wisdom by reflecting on their errors. Why not be irresponsible when courage has its place? True bravery combines daring with wisdom to produce virtue, not a hazard. Recklessness serves no one. Finally, we owe it to ourselves and others to exercise disciplined self-control, accept consequences, and learn from our mistakes. As Seneca once said, nothing is more disgraceful than rashness. Number 14. The unprincipled. Another undesirable personality type considered in Stoic philosophy is the unprincipled person. These individuals lack integrity and moral values. They will go to immoral measures to get their way. The unprincipled person does not feel constrained by conceptions of right and wrong. They are willing to lie, cheat, steal, betray, violate agreements, and injure others to achieve their goals. In their calculations, the objective always justifies the means. This fosters an anything-goes mindset. The unprincipled person lacks an inner sense of ethics or conscience. They have no problem deceiving. Those who trust them or take advantage of other people's shortcomings are simply hurdles or instruments. This dishonest technique inevitably backfires, and the unprincipled individual becomes untrustworthy and disliked. Once their deceit comes to light, their immoral behavior leaves a trail of disappointment and damages lives. Any achievements they make demonstrate fake stoicism. He emphasizes that pursuing morality and noble goals is the only way to truly succeed. While worldly desires come and go, moral integrity stays. We must be willing to give up everything external before compromising internal ideals. In the end, the unprincipled possess nothing of permanent value. According to Marcus Aurelius, removing a branch from the branch next to it also removes it from the entire tree. Number 15. The vicious. The cruel individual is the final harmful personality type that Stoicism warns against. These wicked individuals find pleasure in being cruel and inflicting pain on others. Their callousness makes them extremely hazardous. The nasty individual regards sympathy as a weakness and finds pleasure in inflicting harm. They are bullies who intimidate the weak in order to gain authority, or they quietly torment their victims mentally and emotionally. Their aggressiveness masks tremendous sadness and insecurity. This active destructiveness poisons the vicious person's connections and community. Brutality and exploitation of the weak instill fear and distrust. They leave behind trauma and despair. Their malice is a sickness of the soul, spreading to everyone they encounter. Stoicism underscores the interwoven nature of our fates as social beings, emphasizing that harming others ultimately harms us. We must resolutely resist the allure of gratuitous cruelty, which destroys human dignity and relationships. True strength comes from boosting others with empathy and kindness. Stoicism demands that individuals in positions of power reject and check those who take pleasure in causing harm, which poses a serious threat. Marcus Aurelius remarked that a healthy society has no room for malice or injury. others will harm themselves. The vicious may appear to benefit temporarily from evil, but they lose their humanity in the process. If you're listening, thank you for sticking around to the end. If any of these Stoic lessons resonated with you, please feel free to start a Stoic debate in the comments section. I appreciate Stoic talks, since these are what influential Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca advocated for. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you're interested in more similar content, subscribe and click the bell. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you find peace and serenity in the Stoic methods.